Welcome, dearly beloved anointed ones. The universe doesn't forget, it just waits patiently and then strikes poetically. Listen, this isn't your average karma is a dish best served cold story. No, this is karma on steroids in heels with receipts. And it pulled up to their doorstep like, remember me? You're about to witness the kind of cosmic payback that doesn't just humble people, it spiritually disfigures them. I'm talking about the kind of reversal that leaves even bystanders saying, nah, they must have messed with the wrong one. And here's a brutal truth most people ignore. According to psychological studies, those who actively sabotage others often believe they're untouchable, until the same chaos they created collapses their own reality. And when it does, it doesn't just ruin their image, it shatters their illusion of control. You see, when people tamper with a chosen one's peace, when they mock what they can't break, when they weaponize lies to assassinate someone's soul, the universe doesn't just get even, it educates. And the tuition fee? Everything they thought they could never lose. So buckle up, because what you're about to hear isn't just ironic, it's spiritually surgical. This karma, it wasn't a coincidence. It was a divine clapback wrapped in poetic justice. And spoiler alert, they're not laughing anymore. Let's get into it. Number one, they mocked the pain you hid. Now they're publicly bleeding what they laughed at. They mocked your pain like it was a comedy show. They laughed at the very thing that nearly ended you. They turned your tears into punchlines, treated your struggles like a personality flaw, and made your suffering a group activity. They never paused to ask why you were quiet, why you suddenly pulled back, or why your light seemed dimmer. They just assumed your brokenness made you lesser, weaker, or deserving of their ridicule. But what they didn't know is that your silence wasn't weakness. It was sacred ground. You were grieving. You were rebuilding. You were surviving something they could never handle for a week, let alone live through. And now, life has done something terrifying. It's handed them the very pain they made fun of. But this time there's no crowd cheering, no circle of friends laughing, no audience to applaud their mockery. The exact emotional hell you once faced, be it heartbreak, betrayal, sickness, abandonment, loss, or mental torment, has shown up in their own life, and it's not funny anymore. Suddenly their world is crumbling, the mask is falling, people are watching them fall apart in real time. Their smiles look forced, their confidence looks cracked, and their energy looks haunted. Because karma didn't just spin the block, it hit hard, and it hit public. Now they understand what you were going through, but it's too late. There's no apology big enough to erase the way they dragged your name through casual conversations. No, I was just joking, can undo the way they enjoyed your pain. What they thought was weakness in you was actually depth, and what they thought was strength in themselves was just borrowed arrogance. Now they're crying the same tears they once rolled their eyes at. They're waking up with the same heaviness they mocked you for carrying. And suddenly, your story doesn't seem so pathetic. It seems prophetic. People are watching. And those same spectators who once laughed with them are now whispering, damn, they're getting exactly what they put out. That's the scary thing about karma. It doesn't hit where it hurts, it hits where you thought you were safe. And this time, it didn't come to teach softly. It came to embarrass thoroughly. They didn't just learn a lesson, they're living inside one. Number two, their curse boomeranged so fast they thought you cast something back. They were so confident you'd fall that when everything started going wrong for them, their first instinct wasn't to self-reflect. It was to blame you. They couldn't wrap their heads around how fast their life started spiraling after what they did to you. The money dried up, relationships crumbled, peace disappeared, and nothing was going their way. It was like a dark cloud followed them everywhere. And the wildest part, they actually thought you were behind it. They became paranoid, whispering to each other that maybe you did something spiritual, maybe you sent something back, or maybe you were more powerful than they thought. But here's the twist. They cast their own destruction. You didn't have to lift a finger. You didn't pray for revenge. You didn't light a candle or chant a word. All you did was survive with a clean heart, while they drowned themselves in wickedness. Their intentions were so nasty, so focused, so fueled by jealousy and ego that it formed its own curse. They sent energy out into the world so toxic it couldn't find you, so it returned to sender. And when it did, it didn't knock politely. It tore through their life like a spiritual wildfire. That's the part they never expected. They thought karma was slow, distant, or optional. But what they put out circled back fast, because they messed with someone protected, and it scared them, it shook them to their core. Their luck turned so drastically they genuinely believed you had to be behind it. But that's how loud the consequences became. They forgot that bad intentions don't vanish just because you lie about them. Energy doesn't care about the cover story. It responds to the truth underneath. The irony is painful. They thought they were in control, but now they're begging for answers, for clarity, for peace they once tried to steal from you. They didn't believe in spiritual law when they were plotting, but now they're Googling protection prayers. They're burning sage they don't even understand. They're scared because something is clearly off, and they know deep down it started when they came for you, not because you're a witch or a warrior, but because you were innocent. And when innocence is attacked, karma doesn't just respond, it erupts. Number 3, they played puppet master. Now they're trapped in their own web. They thought they were the genius behind the scenes, pulling all the strings, playing people like chess pieces. They smiled in your face while planting lies behind your back. They gathered allies, twisted stories, and moved like a puppet master, believing they were too smart, too connected, too charming to ever get caught. They didn't just want you to fall, they wanted to control how you fell, who turned on you, when it happened, how far it would go. Every move was calculated, like they were writing the script to your downfall, but they forgot one thing. When you dig traps for someone else, you start living in a trap yourself. The same web they built to catch you is now choking them. The lies they told, they're circling back. The people they manipulated, they're waking up, comparing stories, noticing patterns. One by one, the pawns are stepping off the board and realizing they were being used. And now the so-called puppet master is panicking because the narrative is unraveling, and this time they can't control it. This time people are asking questions they can't answer. The lies are stacking up, and the web is collapsing on top of them. There's no worse feeling than realizing you're trapped in the very game you created. That's where they are now. They wanted to make you look unstable, disloyal, or dangerous. But all they did was expose how insecure, controlling, and manipulative they truly are. Their need for power and attention has turned into their greatest weakness. They can't keep up the act anymore. They're paranoid, constantly watching their back, afraid someone will leak the truth. And that fear, that's the same fear they tried to inject into your life. They were never smarter than life, they were just temporarily getting away with things. But karma doesn't care about timing, it cares about alignment. And they fell out of alignment the moment they used deceit as a tool. Now they're stuck in a reality they built with their own hands, surrounded by fake alliances and people who secretly don't trust them anymore. It's the full circle they never saw coming. The web they wove was never about catching you. It was always going to be their own spiritual trap. And now they're tangled in it, with no escape. Number 4, they prayed for your downfall. So long God answered their prayers for themselves. They prayed for your downfall so consistently, it became a ritual. Every conversation, every thought, every interaction was dripping with bitterness. They weren't just upset with you. They were consumed, obsessed. They started wishing failure on you the way people wish for sunshine, and the scary part, they really thought those prayers were justified. They convinced themselves that your progress was a threat, that your peace was undeserved, and that your blessings should have belonged to them. So they didn't just hope you would fall, they prayed for it repeatedly, relentlessly. But the universe does not respond to names. It responds to energy, it responds to motive. You cannot cover a rotten heart with religious language and expect divine favor. They weren't praying from a place of healing, they were praying from a place of hate. And because of that, they didn't align with your downfall. They aligned with their own destruction. Without realizing it, every time they spoke negativity over your life, they were planting seeds in their own soil. Every time they whispered, "I hope they lose everything," the universe said, "Noted." You just claimed that energy. Now everything they wished for you is showing up in their world: confusion, setbacks, isolation, delay, loss. But it's not punishment, it's reflection. Their prayers didn't move God, their energy moved the outcome. Because when you pray against someone who never did you wrong, who kept their heart pure and their hands clean, the only thing you activate is a mirror, a spiritual boomerang. And when it returns, it does not knock. It enters like it was invited. They are looking around and blaming bad luck, jealous friends, spiritual warfare, anything but themselves. But deep down, they know. They know the things they wished on you were dark. They know the prayers they spoke weren't really prayers. They were curses disguised as religious language. And now they are being visited by the very darkness they unleashed. You did not need to defend yourself. You did not need to clap back. Their own tongue set the trap, and their own energy built the pit. And now their own life is crumbling beneath the weight of what they hoped would destroy you. That is not karma being cruel. That is karma being fair. Number 5, they thought destroying you would elevate them. Instead, it paralyzed their path. They thought stepping on you would lift them higher. They thought if they removed you from the picture through lies, manipulation, or calculated exclusion, they would have more light, more space, more opportunity. In their mind, your success was the obstacle, not their own insecurities. So they planned your downfall like it was a strategy meeting. Quiet sabotage, shady alliances, backroom conversations. It wasn't just betrayal, it was premeditated, a move made to clear the way for themselves. But what they never expected was that removing you would not open doors for them. It would lock every single one they tried to walk through. Instead of elevation, they got exhaustion. No matter what they try to build now, it doesn't last. It falls apart. Clients back out, partnerships dissolve, money vanishes, opportunities slip. And it's not bad luck. It's spiritual consequence, because you cannot plant destruction and expect to harvest peace. They built their dreams on dirty soil. They tied their ambition to a curse. And what they thought was a smart move is now the reason they can't sleep at night. The guilt is loud. The karma is louder. Their progress is frozen. Not because people are against them, but because their heart was never clean when they made their move. They didn't just want to rise, they wanted to rise by erasing you. That's a different kind of ambition, one that comes with a heavy price. It might have worked in the beginning. They might have gotten a taste of success, of recognition, of power, but it's all drying up now. The applause stopped, the light dimmed, and deep down they can feel it. Something is off. Everything they touch seems to rust. Nothing sticks, nothing flows. The truth is, when you try to destroy someone who did nothing but stand in their own lane, you curse your own path. It's a spiritual law. They may not believe in that kind of law, but their life is proving it real. They weren't ready for the emptiness that would follow, and now they're stuck, haunted by what they did, tormented by how far they still haven't come. That sabotage didn't elevate them, it exposed them, and what they buried to stop your growth has now grown into the very thing choking their own. Number 6, they turned people against you. Now people are ashamed they believed them. They didn't just lie about you, they campaigned against you. They made you the villain in stories you weren't even present for. Behind closed doors, they threw your name around like it was dirt, twisting facts, exaggerating moments, and projecting their own guilt onto you. They had group chats, whisper networks, subtle shade, and full-blown smear campaigns. And for a while it worked. People looked at you differently. They stopped calling. They backed away. You felt the shift. You saw the side eyes. You heard the rumors echo before you even walked into the room, and all you could do was stay quiet and watch your name get trampled by people who didn't even know the real you. But time has a way of doing what truth doesn't have to rush. Slowly, piece by piece, people started noticing the inconsistencies. They saw the patterns. The same ones who called you too much were now being called toxic. The ones who said you were the problem somehow had drama with everyone else too. The lies started falling apart on their own. You didn't have to defend yourself. You didn't have to post receipts. The truth was breathing loud enough. And now, the very same people who once sided with your enemies are starting to feel that weight of guilt. They're embarrassed. They're realizing they were used as tools in someone else's bitter agenda. Some of them didn't mean to hurt you. They just believed the wrong voice. But now that the masks are off, they're looking at you with different eyes. Softer, sorry. They're realizing you weren't the problem. You were the target, and they helped paint the target on your back. What hurts them most is that they never asked you your side, they just assumed. But now that the dust is settling, you don't even have to explain. Your peace speaks. Your consistency speaks. Your growth speaks. And all those who once doubted you are watching in silence, ashamed, regretful, and quietly hoping you never find out how deep their words cut. You were the real one the whole time, the one they laughed at, the one they doubted, the one they turned their backs on. And now that the truth is undeniable, they're choking on every lie they helped spread, because they see now they bet against the wrong soul. Number 7, they celebrated when you were homeless, sick, or heartbroken. Now their stability is vanishing. They didn't just watch you suffer, they celebrated it. When you were at your lowest, they found entertainment in your pain. They cracked jokes, they told stories. They shared your situation like gossip. Some pretended to care publicly, but behind closed doors they laughed. They called it karma. They called it, you got what you deserved. But what they never said out loud was how deeply they envied your strength. Even when you were heartbroken, homeless, or sick, you still had a presence. You still had a light, and that light irritated their demons. They felt bigger when you were small, safer when you were broken. They loved knowing you were in survival mode while they were living in comfort. Your pain gave them a false sense of power, and the louder their life looked on the outside, the more they mocked what you were going through. They thought they had won, that you were finally finished, that God had abandoned you. But they had no idea that your suffering wasn't punishment. It was preparation. A reset, and while they were laughing, heaven was rewriting your story. Now the shift has begun. Slowly, the ground beneath them is becoming unstable. The money that flowed easily has started to disappear. The relationships they were so sure of are now strained. Their energy feels off, their peace is gone, and they are terrified because they cannot understand why everything is crumbling. But you do. You recognize the pattern. You know this is not random, this is justice, a divine audit, a correction of energy. They laughed while you were being tested. Now they're crying while being exposed. The same eyes that once watched you struggle are now filled with fear. They are begging for peace in places where they once sowed chaos. They are asking for healing in the same silence they once mocked. And the universe, it is not cruel, it is fair. What they put out has circled back, not out of revenge, but alignment. You did not have to curse them. You did not have to plot. Life did the math on its own, and now everything they built on your downfall is collapsing because it was never blessed. It was fed by arrogance, and now that arrogance has turned to ashes. Number 8, they tried to play God in your life. Now they're experiencing silence from the divine. They did not just hurt you, they tried to redefine you. They wanted to rewrite your story with their own pen. They thought if they controlled how others saw you, if they blocked your opportunities, manipulated your connections, and spread their twisted version of you, they could reshape your entire path. They wanted to stand in the position of divine authority in your life, deciding what you deserved, who should love you, and how far you should go. It was not just disrespect, it was spiritual trespassing. They did not trust life to do its job, so they tried to do it themselves. They whispered in rooms they had no business being in. They tampered with what was meant for you. They tried to delay things that were divinely timed, and all of it was done with pride in their chest, as if they were the gatekeeper of your future. But the dangerous thing about trying to play God is that eventually you are left with a silence you cannot fill. And that is what they are living in now, a heavy spiritual silence, not just unanswered prayers, but a complete sense of disconnection. They are praying, but nothing moves. They are asking, but doors remain shut. They are trying to manifest, but nothing sticks. It is not because they are cursed, it is because they overstepped. They tried to edit someone else's calling, and in doing so, they forfeited their own alignment. The divine does not share authority with manipulators. It removes its covering from them, that absence they feel. That dryness in their spirit, that is not random. That is what happens when you try to sit on a throne that does not belong to you. Now they are spiritually exiled. What once flowed easily is now full of friction. They are trying to hear God, but all they get is silence. And that silence is not a test. It is a response, a message, a consequence. They touched what was sacred, tried to halt what was heaven sent, and now they are standing outside the gates they once tried to guard. The lesson is harsh, but real. When you try to be God in someone else's life, you lose your place in His presence, and that is a loss no amount of control can recover. Number 9, they tapped into dark energy to harm you, now that energy is eating them alive. They crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. They were not just angry with you, they were obsessed. So obsessed, they looked for ways to break you spiritually. When lies didn't work, when isolation wasn't enough, they turned to darkness. They sought out people who claimed to have power. They paid for spells, readings, and rituals meant to block your path, twist your mind, or harm your body. Some even did it themselves, lighting candles, chanting names, writing petitions against your life, calling on forces they did not fully understand. All of it done in secret, thinking you would never know. But the thing about spiritual energy is it doesn't wait for permission to announce itself. They were told it would clear you out, make you disappear, teach you a lesson. And for a while, maybe it looked like it worked. Maybe you felt heavy. Maybe you went through strange losses. Maybe you couldn't explain the sudden shifts, the attacks, the anxiety, the weird dreams. But what they didn't realize is that your protection runs deeper than candles and chants. You were covered before they even thought of you. And because of that, the energy they sent couldn't stay with you. It circled, it searched, then it went back with interest. Now they are not sleeping. Now they are seeing shadows. Now they are jumping at nothing, hearing whispers, having breakdowns they cannot explain. The same spirits they called on for revenge are sitting with them at night, refusing to leave. It is not just paranoia, it is infestation, spiritual infestation. Their peace is gone, their home feels strange, their mind is cluttered. And no amount of sage or crystals can cleanse what was rooted in hate. They did not understand the rules. Spiritual law is real. You cannot conjure destruction without eventually eating from the same plate. That energy they tapped into, it demands payment. And now it is collecting, through fear, through illness, through mental torment. They open doors they cannot close, and what once made them feel powerful is now making them feel powerless. This is not your doing, it is their decision coming full circle. They were warned, through conscience, through intuition, through signs. But they ignored all of it, chasing a false sense of victory. And now the darkness they tried to bury you with is sitting on their chest, night after night, refusing to move. Number 10. They thought your meekness meant powerlessness. Now they're terrified of your glow-up. They mistook your silence for weakness. Your humility looked like fear to them. The way you walked away from drama, stayed quiet in chaos, and didn't defend yourself when lies were flying around made them believe you had no power. They thought you were soft, that you were scared, that you were done. But what they never understood is that your silence wasn't surrender. It was strategy. You were preserving your energy, not because you were losing, but because you were shifting. While they were busy trying to destroy your name, you were rebuilding your life, quietly, steadily, day by day. You healed wounds they never thought you would recover from. You processed pain they expected to leave you bitter. You found joy in places they prayed would break you. And now, you are glowing, radiating from a place they can't reach. And that glow is not just beauty, it's spiritual victory. It's the evidence that you are not who they thought you were. You are stronger, deeper, wiser, and unbothered. And they hate it. They see you online and your peace irritates their spirit. They hear your name in conversations and it stings because they know what they tried to do. They walk past you and your energy feels like judgment, not because you're judging them, but because you remind them of their own failure. You are the proof that their hate had no power. You are the living reminder that they could not dim what was divinely lit. They are terrified of your glow up, not just because it's visible, but because it's unexplainable. You didn't fight back. You didn't smear them in return. You didn't stoop to their level. And yet you're winning. That bothers them more than anything. Because in their mind, you had to crumble. You had to break. You had to disappear. But you didn't. You rose. And that rise makes them question everything they thought about power, about control, and about you. Now, every time they see your peace, it disturbs theirs. Every time they see you smile, it reminds them of the storm they created that couldn't drown you. And that's the worst punishment of all. Knowing the one they called weak became untouchable, and they never saw it coming. Number 11, they took a piece of your soul. But the universe took a piece of their sanity. They did not just hurt you, they took something sacred from you, a piece of your soul. Not in the dramatic, poetic way people casually say it, but in the real, painful sense. They took your trust, your innocence, your vulnerability, and they handled it with cruelty. They used your loyalty as a weapon. They fed off your kindness while secretly mocking it. And when they were done taking, they left you to deal with the silence, the confusion, and the emotional wreckage. But the universe was watching, and what they thought was a clean escape became the beginning of their internal collapse. Because when you betray a pure soul, you do not just walk away, you disconnect from peace, from favor, from alignment. And that disconnect is subtle at first. Things just stop flowing, the timing feels off, joy becomes harder to find, but soon it grows louder. Their sleep gets strange. Their thoughts get heavier, their spirit feels cloudy, they cannot explain it. But everything feels harder than it used to be. That is what happens when you violate someone who was divinely placed in your life, not for gain but for growth. They did not just lose you, they lost the version of themselves they were when they had you, that grounded, guided, more whole version. Now their life feels like a haunted maze. Nothing feels stable. They are constantly chasing something but finding nothing. Even the things they used to enjoy now feel shallow. Their energy is scattered. Their emotions are unpredictable. They are surrounded by people but feel isolated. That is what happens when you take from someone you were supposed to protect. The balance shifts. The soul keeps score, and it is not revenge, it is reflection. You were not perfect, but your heart was real, and they violated it without remorse. So now the very thing they tried to numb in you has awakened in them, and it will not be easy to escape. Because what they took was not just love or time, it was light. And when you steal light, your own world gets darker. They did not just lose a good person, they lost access to the kind of energy that could have elevated them, and now all that is left is noise in the mind, weight in the soul, and a quiet knowing deep inside that something valuable is gone and it is never coming back. Number 12, they thought time would bury the truth. But time became the truth's microphone. They were sure time would wash away the damage. That if they kept quiet long enough, smiled wide enough, and stayed in the right circles, people would forget what they did to you. They counted on your silence becoming your sentence. They believed the lie would settle into history as fact, and they would be safe behind the image they built. Time to them was a hiding place, a shield. But what they forgot is that time is not neutral. Time does not protect lies. It pulls them apart. As the days passed, cracks began to show, not because you said anything, but because their energy could not hold the weight of their own deception. The mask started slipping. The story started unraveling. People began asking questions, connecting dots, remembering moments that once seemed harmless. And one by one, the lies they told started losing power. Even people who never met you began to feel something off about them. Their presence felt rehearsed. Their stories didn't match. Their energy felt misaligned. Time was doing what truth always knew it would. It was peeling the layers, not to destroy, but to reveal. The exposure was not loud at first. It started in the subtle way people pulled back. The change in tone when their name came up. The side glances, the tension. It built slowly, like smoke rising before the fire is visible. But now, it is undeniable. Time gave the truth a microphone, and that microphone is echoing in rooms they never expected to lose. Reputations are shifting. Trust is vanishing, and the image they worked so hard to maintain is turning into a shadow of suspicion. They are suffocating under their own performance, not because you exposed them, but because truth never stays buried forever. It does not matter how much charm, money, or social reach they have. Once the energy is off, people can feel it, and that feeling spreads faster than any rumor. They underestimated how deeply spiritual truth is. It does not need a platform to speak. It just needs time. Now they walk around with that weight, trying to control the narrative but feeling it slip, trying to stay composed but feeling it crack, and the silence they once found comfort in is now filled with the loud, undeniable sound of everything catching up to them. Time was not on their side, it was on truth's, and the truth is winning. Number 13, they wanted you gone, but God wanted you crowned. They did everything in their power to erase you. They tried to write you out of your own story. The gossip was intentional. The group chats were strategic. The fake concern, the staged sympathy, the crocodile tears. They were all calculated tools in their mission to push you out, to make you disappear, to make people question your worth, your sanity, your integrity. It wasn't just dislike. It was a full-blown erasure campaign dressed up as concern. They wanted you forgotten, replaced, irrelevant, but what they didn't realize is that you were never chosen by them in the first place. You were anointed, not appointed. Your light didn't come from popularity. Your presence didn't depend on their approval. Your calling wasn't something they could vote on. That's why their tactics failed. That's why no matter how many people they turned against you or how many narratives they forced into circulation, you remained, and not just survived, but began to rise. Because what they tried to bury was not just a person, it was divine purpose, and purpose can't be cancelled, not by jealousy, not by envy, not even by spiritual warfare. Now the reversal has begun. Their lives, once loud and admired, are starting to dim. The attention they once basked in feels empty. The praise they craved is being replaced by whispers of suspicion. Meanwhile, you are stepping into light that feels too pure to be man-made, because it is not. It is alignment. It is heaven saying, I saw everything and now it is time. This is divine inversion. The ones who schemed are now scrambling. The ones who tried to silence you are now being silenced. The ones who wanted you gone are now being removed from rooms they thought belonged to them. And it is not you doing it. It is not revenge. It is spiritual justice moving in real time. You are being crowned in places they swore you would never enter. You are gaining support from people who were once blind to your value. Your name is being restored, not by force, but by favor. And that favor is louder than any lie, more enduring than any betrayal, and more powerful than every attack they launched. They wanted you gone, but God wanted you seen, heard, and elevated. And when God wants you crowned, no one can cancel what heaven has already confirmed. Number 14. They laughed at the wrong person, and now they're begging a silent God for help. They thought you were just another name to mock, another soul to discard. When they laughed at your pain, they had no idea they were laughing at the wrong one. You weren't weak, you were watched, covered, protected, and everything they did to you was being recorded in a realm far above their understanding. It wasn't just cruelty. It was a spiritual test, a moment in time designed not to destroy you, but to expose them. And they failed it, miserably. They thought their cruelty was clever. The laughter, the jokes, the eye rolls when your name came up, the way they dehumanized you behind your back and smiled in your face. They thought you were beneath them, disposable, easy to ridicule, easy to break. But they didn't know who you were in the spirit. They didn't know what you carried. You weren't just someone passing through their life. You were a divine measuring stick, placed there to reveal their heart. And now, their own actions have turned into their prison. Suddenly, everything in their life feels stuck. The doors that once opened easily are locked. The people who used to favor them are distant. Their mind is heavy. Their prayers feel hollow. They're crying, but nothing is shifting. They're begging for breakthrough, but the heavens are silent. Not out of cruelty, but out of correction. Because the same God they're calling on watched them laugh at someone he anointed. This is not spiritual warfare, it's spiritual isolation, a divine timeout, a consequence. Because they didn't just mishandle a person, they mishandled a test. One that was supposed to elevate them had they passed it with humility and grace, but instead they let pride speak, they let ego lead. And now they're living inside a silence that speaks louder than any punishment. They're not telling anyone about it, but they feel it, deep in their spirit, the loss of favor, the emptiness in their wins, the way nothing satisfies, no matter how loud the applause. And the haunting part? They know where it started. They remember the moment they chose mockery over mercy. They remember how good it felt to laugh at you, not realizing they were laughing at their own downfall. You weren't the fool, you were the revealer. And now their laughter has turned into a silence they can't outrun, because God's response to dishonor is distance, and nothing feels heavier than a divine absence. What they did in secret is now screaming in their reality. Every lie they told, every laugh they shared at your expense, every spiritual violation they committed out of ego and obsession, it's all come full circle. Not because you sought revenge, not because you exposed them, but because the laws of the universe and the justice of the divine do not miss a thing. They thought they were untouchable. They thought they could manipulate energy, rewrite your narrative, and hijack your destiny. But what they didn't know is you were never theirs to handle. You were assigned, not approved, protected, not performative, anointed, not average. And when someone violates a divine assignment, the consequences don't knock, they enter. What they thought was a clever plan became their own spiritual trap. What they hoped would ruin you became their reflection. And now, while your light continues to rise with grace, they are drowning in shadows they invited in themselves. They didn't just mess with a person, they mishandled a test. And that test has now become a mirror they can't look away from. Let them sit in the silence they created. Let them wrestle with the guilt they laughed through. You keep glowing, keep rising, keep healing, because the crown they tried to snatch wasn't handed to you by man. It was forged through pain, protected by purpose, and placed on your head by hands they can't touch. This is not a comeback story. This is divine justice in real time. And the same people who once laughed at your downfall are now being haunted by your rise. Let that be your peace. If this message stirred something in your soul, don't just scroll, let it be known. Hit that like button to show you're walking in truth. Comment below if you've ever seen divine justice unfold right in front of your eyes. Share this video with someone who needs to be reminded that God always keeps receipts. And most importantly, subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications so you never miss another moment like this. This isn't just content, it's confirmation. And if it found you, you were meant to receive it. Stay grounded, stay glowing, stay chosen. Your story isn't over, it's just beginning. God bless you.